What do we see that went wrong for the brands who underperformed, specifically talking about creative?
You're facing a headwind that you didn't face last year, in the sense that it's harder to generate the same results that you generated 12 months ago. If you've been looking and running your ad accounts based on Meta metrics or Google metrics, that's been a mistake.
For the brands who might be watching this and they recognize some of these patterns for their own business over Black Friday, what's the next step they can take? Hey Duncan, when you look at the brands who did stumble this year, what separates them from everyone else?
Well, we're starting to see feedback coming through already within a couple of days of Black Friday finishing that it was a fairly strong year. So we can kind of get a really good estimation that if you didn't perform particularly well, you've probably been in the minority. That's not to say it was necessarily an easier Black Friday. In fact, it was probably one of the harder ones for e-commerce businesses. And there's a number of reasons for that. So whether it was the fact that we saw customer acquisition peak several years ago, and that brands didn't adjust and now starting to sort of hit road bumps. And also the fact that now sort of planning ahead of BFCM, is more important than ever before. So if you wanted to go straight into Black Friday without having done some work behind the scenes to make sure that it was going to be an effective strategy, there's a good chance that that it didn't work out as well as you'd hoped.
So there's kind of three core elements to what we saw, and maybe a fourth we can add in as well. Let's start with the first, though, acquisition. What changed that left some brands exposed?
When we review ad accounts for new clients and prospects coming on board, what we often see is that customer acquisition really peaked sort of in that 2022, 2023 time zone or time frame. And the reasons that are varied. It could be based on sort of that COVID hangover. It could be based on some of the way the technology has changed from an ad account perspective. But what we're seeing in the ad accounts is that when we have a look at them now, quite often there's a lot of retargeting of existing customers happening. And there hasn't been a laser focus on customer acquisition that has needed to occur to make sure that customer numbers have kept growing in the last 3 years. So what's really been happening is that the same revenue or slight growth in revenue has been sort of being generated from a lesser and lesser customers over time. And it's now really hitting that crunch period where there's just not the amount of customers that a business has that they had back in 2022 and 2023 because they haven't been sort of filling up the bucket, so to speak. So that's been a real issue. We've also seen, Conversely, we've also seen where brands who have invested in new qualified audiences and cultivated their funnel with people who were either problem aware or solution unaware, and really thinking about their creative production in that sense. They had a really different Black Friday outcome because they've sort of really been thinking about the way that they bring in new customers and the actual funnel stage that people are in. That's resulted in materially strong results in 2025.
Yeah, I think that's been a core difference in the ad accounts we've seen that are growing. Feels like 2025 was the year of talking about creative nonstop. But if we take that as a theme for Black Friday, what do we see that went wrong for the brands who underperformed, specifically talking about creative?
Yeah, well, there's some technical aspects for, in particular, Meta, that there's been algorithmic changes where there's less levers for you to pull now to manually control who's seeing your ads, and it's really being driven by creative. And so that's both the volume of creative that you're putting into your ad account, but also in terms of the variation and the diversity of ads. So, how many different personas are you targeting? How are you talking to them? What types of ad formats? Things like that. And so it's not that that brands that haven't embraced that have failed per se. It's more that you're facing a headwind that you didn't face last year. So in the sense that it's harder to generate the same results that you generated 12 months ago if you don't have that creative velocity through the volume and diversity of ad creative. it's just harder than it was 12 months ago. So that could be another compounding reason why performance this year wasn't as strong as it needed to be, because effectively the meta algorithm has made your reach much smaller than it used to be because of this creative is targeting philosophy.
Excellent. So some brands might be saying, yeah, we did focus on customer acquisition. We did get our creative velocity up, but we didn't see this translate. You've talked a lot about measurement over 2025. What do you think's caused so many to misread their performance this year?
Yeah, so another sort of, I guess, big sort of shift from all the ad platforms really is attribution. So they're materially invested in being able to claim credit for the work that they're doing to bring you new customers and showing ads to people. So a lot of brands, particularly in Australia more so than, say, the USA, focus on the ad account metrics for both Google and Meta. And what's patently obvious is that there are ways to game the system. So if you're relying solely on purchase volume, whether it's Google or whether it's Meta, or your ROAS, what you're missing is actually what's happening behind the scenes in your Shopify store or your e-commerce platform, where how is that actually translating into revenue and new customer acquisition? So, and it's very clearly been obvious over the last couple of years that those two, or performance from in reality versus the ad accounts, have been going in different directions in some case. So things can look great in ad accounts and things can look quite poor from your e-commerce perspective. So I think if you've been looking and running your ad accounts based on Meta metrics or Google metrics, that's been a mistake. And really, we need to look at sort of third-party platforms now to really sort of take an agnostic approach to determining like what is actually best for your business, and also thinking about metrics, whether it's the marketing efficiency ratio or MER, whether it's customer acquisition cost or customer acquisition cost, and then also gross profit as well. Those are the metrics that are obviously more important to your business at the end of the day, and take some of that gray area around what is actually the ad platform reporting versus last year or the year before, so that we're making sure that we're actually focusing on the metrics that really matter to your business. And so the way to address that is, either having a data source that combines all of the ad platform metrics and also your e-commerce store metrics, or something that out of the box does that, like a Northbeam or a Triple Whale or a Wicked Reports. I think where that used to be a nice to have in 2024, it's now becoming kind of a mission critical piece of software to have in 2025 and beyond.
Yeah, I think really important. I think even we've seen brands that have MER, making sure you're looking at an acquisition MER or some version of that can be really key as well as you get it into the Black Friday period. I said there was sort of 3 key ones at Black Friday that were spoken to, but there was obviously a fourth that we talked a lot earlier in the year about. Offer testing. Why does this separate winners from those who struggle?
Yeah, so I think this is one where North America's been significantly ahead of Australia. And the reason is they think more long-term than we do. So quite often they're happy to take a break even or a potential loss for that first customer sale, because they're thinking more about lifetime value, and perhaps recovering that cost and making profit by 12 or 18 months. We often see Australian businesses really focused on making profit from that first sale, which in a way is crimping growth of the business overall. But it doesn't only apply from that perspective of generating the sale. It really sort of stunts thinking around like what is the best offer at the right time. And it can really lead to one-dimensional Black Friday strategies. So that could be, a 20% off or a 30% off sale, but that hasn't really been proven by the business to actually be the most effective way to generate new customers, or really activate your existing customers to make those purchases that you're looking to contribute towards their LTV. So unfortunately in Australia, we've got this incredible period called the end of financial year, which offers this really compelling sales period, 4 or 5 months ahead of Black Friday. And we're yet to see any real businesses think about, let's test a range of different offers for ahead of Black Friday to figure out which one is going to be the most effective for generating our targets for Black Friday. And so what I mean by offers is that it could be a straight discount. It could be a bundle. It could be a minimum threshold for free shipping or for a bonus gift. There's a whole range of different of options available. And it also might not be a straight up discount. You might have a cult product that potentially you could hold off being in market until Black Friday and then release it again. And there's all this pent up demand when people are in the mindset for shopping. So it just requires thinking about Black Friday months and months ahead rather than going in blind with an offer that you just don't know is the best one for your either your retention or your LTV or new customer acquisition. So that'd be one I'd really encourage you to think about for 2026 is, what work can we do months ahead to figure out what's the best strategy for us for Black Friday.
It makes sense. So for the brands who might be watching this and they recognize some of these patterns for their own business over Black Friday, what's the next step they can take?
Yeah, first thing, it's not over. So Black Friday might be done and dusted, but you've probably got a whole bunch of traffic that's come through, people that have engaged with your ads, and we're now hitting that period of cheaper CPMs. So, find a way to salvage the next 3 weeks before Christmas, or potentially the quieter January period. So what can you do to basically drive some more purchases? Maybe that's a Christmas gifting offer. Maybe that's a bundling offer for January, or something else or in between. So that's the first thing. Don't think it's all done and dusted. Go back to the drawing board now and try and find a way to recover what you can. And then the second thing is we've created this dedicated Black Friday post-mortem. It's once-off paid audit. Basically, we'll try and find the reasons for your underperformance. If we can't, it's money back. But if not, what we'll do is try and find what went wrong and give you at least 3 actionable insights that you can take away for either improvements for your day-to-day BAU advertising or potentially a roadmap for any future sales events. So that, while 2025's BFCM caught you off guard, we don't want to repeat that mistake, and you probably have some sales coming up in 2026. So let's get you prepared for those so that we're not repeating the same mistakes again next year.
And is there a certain size or spend where that's give you the most value?
Look, I think if you're spending, $20,000 a month in ads or more, and you've got some resources available internally to help think strategically, this is probably the plan for you. If you're small and struggling to get off the ground in terms of, or you haven't got product market fit, this might not be the best approach. It's certainly one where for established e-commerce businesses, this would be, a key piece of work that enables you to get growth again in 2026. I think it's just key to mention, don't think you're the norm if you haven't performed this year. Growth is still on the table. We definitely have not seen 2025 have economic pressures. So, don't stick your head in the sand. I would take action today knowing that you've got this motivation that something went wrong. Find out what it is that went wrong, and let's work on fixing that for next year so that you can be more prepared.
Yeah, I think that's good. And if you're an in-house team managing that media buy-in as well, we're more than happy to have those conversations with you. Having that outside voice, given that we're seeing a whole breadth of ad accounts, can be really useful as this sort of one-off paid audit here as well. So I think, we definitely saw this year there's not just one approach or one equation. If you've been following a coaching model or a program that said this is the only way, we've definitely worked with some brands who've come out the other side of that and saw that, maybe there's multiple ways, and it is about finding that kind of bespoke approach for your brand within these frameworks, which Duncan and team have developed as well. So look forward to reach out. Obviously, there's only a few spots that we can offer. Given the time of year that we do have, we want to ensure the quality is. So we'll try and keep a live tally of how many is left on this page. But look forward to chatting with you soon.
Thanks again. And I wish you well for the Christmas period, and fingers crossed for 2026.